My name is Felicity Jones, and I play a character called Sully. Sully is someone who has grown up being absolutely obsessed with space travel. She's dreamt about going to space from being a very, very young girl. It's something that she is deeply passionate about. She has a very scientific mind. She knows exactly what she's doing. She has such a tremendous experience being up in space, and she's someone who initially, when you encounter her, has probably had quite a lonely life back on Earth, in the sense that it's quite an extraordinary profession which takes her away for long periods of time. So she hasn't been able to form very close bonds back at home, but you see throughout the film her connecting with these other crewmates and forming a very deep friendship and a deep love with one of the characters, Adewale. There is a great amount of self-sacrifice for astronauts, but the ultimate endgame for Sully is exploration, is understanding more about the world, and as you see in the film, not just this world, but other worlds beyond in outer space. They are a couple, and they're deeply in love with each other, but they also maintain a very professional standard. So they don't want to be flirting and kissing in front of the rest of the crew members. You know, there's a respect for the intimacy and the proximity of being in that spaceship. But they have that we've got numerous lovely scenes of showing the connection that these two people have, and I feel this is the first time Sully has been able to forge that type of connection with another human being. When I read the script, it was that I was moved by it, and there are so few scripts that you read that you have an emotional engagement with. But I was entranced by it, and I felt that there was not only an action film in this story, a very tense plot, but also it was underpinned by some very genuine human emotions, and it's about forging human connection in very difficult circumstances. Well, there are two stories that coexist and bounce off each other. So you have a man who's one of the last men on Earth, who is communicating with a spaceship full of a crew, and it's about the interaction between those two stories and the people within those stories. But it's very much a post-apocalyptic landscape, which increasingly with the present news sometimes doesn't feel that far away. But let's hope it's further than we sometimes are led to believe. They're very much themes of love, redemption, loss, human survival. Huge part of the film is survival against the odds, and what really is important in human existence. What is it that makes it worth it? And in the end, of course, it's always love and human relationships. David and I had known each other a little bit before we started shooting, but immediately on set there was just a shorthand and very similar ways of working, and I've actually just had a great fun doing those scenes with him. He's very in the moment. There's a spontaneity. It feels like we have very similar styles of acting, so it's been an absolute dream working with David. George is someone who creates an incredibly harmonious environment. You feel very strong reins of leadership, but within that you're given absolute freedom to explore these characters. And it's just, filming is always, there's an element of hard work, and you're always pushing against the clock and time, but we've had such great fun at the same time, and I think that's what's so important is George creates a very relaxed environment, and we as a crew on this ship, you have to feel that they've been together in this confinement for 2 years, and part of getting to that point is feeling very comfortable with each other, and a lot of that comes from the atmosphere created by the director. Everyone brings such detail to their performances and a soulfulness, and I think that's the thing that with all the actors that have been cast, you really feel within, there's to a certain extent it's science fiction, so there's a lot of technical speak, and you're talking about spaceships and galaxies, and but underneath that, what's so important is the humanity. I think that's what is so unique about this is that all the characters on the ship, there's a certain amount of professionalism, but then behind that you see little glimmers of vulnerability and also fear of what's going to happen. That they are literally in the unknown. They're in outer space, not knowing what's going on, and so it's lovely to see that sort of performance for each other. But then privately, there's a lot going on for each of them. What's been really interesting is building these intimate relationships between pairs of characters, and making sure that when, at the end of the film, when they, as you'll see, when they have to go their separate ways, that you feel that there's been such a bond and a connection. I remember thinking that in the read-through, right at the beginning, we all sat down together, and it was one of the first times we'd met, and I just thought, these actors are amazing. They're incredibly good at what they do. George is such a wonderful human being to be around. He's deeply empathetic, which comes from being an actor himself. He knows what it's like. So he always can read, he always checks in with you, he makes sure that you feel comfortable. It is one of the most harmonious and relaxing filming experiences I think I've ever had. And he's someone who has absolute control over what he's doing, but allows people to find their own rhythm within the safety net he provides. And that is ultimately what you want from a director. I think they're all petrified and stunned, and it's a point when it's the end of hope, and we need so much hope to get through every day, and then seeing that image, it just absolutely, crucifies them, and the realities that they were fearing, they now see are concrete. So then it becomes a huge turning point in the film. It's fascinating to read something and then see how it's been realized, and there's just there's a wonderful sense of the future, but still it has a reality to it, and I think that's the happy place that you want to be in. But it has been extraordinary. I mean, just going up into space is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And then looking back at some of the shots and just seeing the extraordinary lighting, and there's something really spectacular about the aesthetic of this film. George constantly wants to keep it moving and active, and is always using the set so it never feels like they ever, as a crew, reach a point where they have too much time to settle and rest. There's constant motion throughout the plotting of these characters in this ship. Jenny is fantastic at her job, but she also does it with such humor and such openness, and it's been fantastic to see the collaboration that she brings. I think that's a huge part of it. She listens to you. She loves all the detail for each character, so even though there's a sense of a uniform, you see all these different idiosyncrasies, and people have got different badges on their suits and different trainers depending on their personality. So she's very, very good at creating a unity in the aesthetic, but also finding detail in that. It's my first time as an astronaut, which has been fascinating, where I have such great empathy. Although, actually, if you're an astronaut, you would be in zero gravity, so you don't have the weight of the suit. But those suits are pretty intense when you put them on. And then you have a goldfish bowl on your head as well. So that's always an experience. Very early on in the shoot, there's a climb that each of the crew members does up this ladder into one of the higher levels of the spaceship, and that was all something that was very carefully plotted with the stunt team and was great fun to do. But it's definitely been an experience dealing with spacesuits and pretending you're in zero gravity. Lily's book was incredibly useful. Obviously, it's based on her book, and I constantly went back for references for her, for understanding Sully and really getting in Sully's mind. And it's a wonderful read and a great book.